Vechain's VET token has fallen by 40.93% since the 15th of July. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and opinions on the most recent price action for Vechain VET token, where I think it's heading next, and all that important information that you must know. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button, guys. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and you will not miss another video update. Let's jump right down into today's video here for Vechain. So this is Vechain's VET token. It's paired up with USDT, and we are on the daily Binance chart here. We can see that this move to the downside has come down quite deep in the early hours of this morning. Okay, that being on the 5th of August. Our low comes in at 2 cent flat. Our previous swing low on the 5th of July was at 2.016 cents, meaning that we have a new daily lower low on our daily time frame here. Okay, this means that we are not in a big reversal move to the upside on Vechain, and our wave 2 isn't yet complete. Anyone who's been following the TA analysis knows that our area of interest is between 1.560 and 2.698, this yellow box area right here that you see on the chart. This is a typical wave 2 retracement, and that's kind of where we've found ourselves in at the moment. Now, this move to the downside is a little bit alarming. Okay, it is quite big in the way that it's currently kind of come down. So if we measure this distance here from the 15th of July to the low that we had on the 25th of July, we saw a small bounce to the upside, and then we saw a continuation of this move to the downside. Now, as you can see here, we haven't yet hit that 1.618 trigger point to create an impulsive breakdown. Okay, so we're not doing something like a wave 1, 2, kind of 3, 4, 5. We're not doing that just yet. It's possible that it changes, of course. This area of interest is 1.932 cent. Okay, so anything kind of lower than that is going to be a bit of an issue for Vechain's price action. Internally here, we could be looking at a small bounce before we fall back down into that range to kind of create it. Otherwise, we're actually in a more WXY/XZ pattern, which I think is probably more fitting for the current structures that we find ourselves in. WXY, bounce, and then Z. So although we come down, and it looked like it's impulsive, and a lot of people might get tripped up by it. To me, it looks more like a triple zigzag pattern than it is a impulsive breakdown on the daily time frame. We'll monitor that situation to see whether or not it turns into something more nasty, and we kind of target out those really lower ranges. But for now, Vechain's sell-off is quite aggressive, yes. It has a new lower low, yes. And we are going to be looking for a relief rally before we continue this move to the downside. The worst is not yet over, in my opinion, for Vechain's VET token here. So if we go in and bring in our EMAs and SMAs, you can see obviously we've got clean rejections on the 200-day EMA on the 15th of July. We lost the 50 EMA, the blue line, and we lost the 50 SMA, the yellow line. So essentially everything is quite negative from the EMAs and the moving averages and all that kind of stuff. Smart money concepts is basically showing you with this great green area here. This green area is where the value seems to be at the minute. And you can also see this discounted range. That happens to be where historically the best value buys have been, right? And that's currently where the price action is. This is coming in, of course, on 2 cent flat to that slightly higher range of 2.175 cents. Ultimately, there's a much broader range. Basically, it shows you that low coming in at the previous swing low at 2.016 up to that slightly higher range of 2.398. We are, of course, in bearish structures. That hasn't changed. We were hoping to see if we could go ahead and get a rally above the 200-day EMA and turns us into a more bullish pattern, but that hasn't happened. And instead, we've come right down into the typical wave 2 retracements. Very brutal. And there's a little bit of psychology that actually fits into this. And I'm going to kind of share a little bit of that with you here today. Okay, when you have a 5-wave impulsive movement like this, okay, the wave 1 is often seen as a bit of a fake rally. Okay, a lot of people don't believe in the wave 1 situation. The wave 2 is I told you so, we're bearish all along. And then of course you get into the big wave 3s, which are very impulsive, and then it's maybe I was wrong about that. And when they see this dip on the wave 4, usually retail investors are buying here and they rally up into that final fifth wave movement, right? So basically if we break this down, you have institutional buyers creating the wave 1, a little bit of sell pressure basically brings in the kind of I told you so as people still miss out, a huge opportunity for essentially institutional investors to come back in and really rally up the wave 3, retail being left behind on this journey, retail buy the wave 4 and create the wave 5. The wave 5 obviously is exit liquidity. Normally though, most institutional investors are exiting on the wave 3, which create the wave 4. And of course, it's a dip by the dip by the dip is kind of the retail sentiment, and then creating that wave 5 before absolute collapse. Why am I talking about this? Well, the wave 2, as I've said many times before, is we're bearish. A bear market hasn't ended. We're still in a bearish times. We know no bull market. Anyone who's buying now is just crazy, right? That's the kind of sentiment that you find for wave 2s, and it's no coincidence, of course, guys, that is exactly the sentiment that you're finding across crypto Twitter and across various different influencers, YouTube channels and various different social media platforms. Nobody likes the wave 2 because it basically just feels like no bull market, nothing like that. But everything that's actually going on here, if we zoom out a little bit for Vechain, actually looks very nice, right? We have a great 5-wave move to the upside, which is our wave 1. We have a typical retracement down into our wave 2. Okay, and that's this one here. Now, don't get me wrong, it can come down quite aggressively, but I'm not expecting us to go down to 0.01318 or lower, which would break out of our structure. Right, it would basically be a bearish breakdown on a much bigger macro scale. Instead, everything's actually lining up quite nicely for that wave 2. And then, of course, we're going to be targeting out at least 20.337 for our 0.618. But again, that target changes depending on how low we end up going. Okay, and of course, we can see some really good runs for Vechain in the longer term. So although this seems really bad, lots of people are going to be telling you, basically we're in a bear market, the bull market's over, you miss selling the top, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to put out a Bitcoin video to kind of dive into why that's a load of absolute bullshit later today. So do go ahead and check that out. But for now, and in fact, I'll try to link it in on the video here if anyone wants to check that out. But for the most part, this is very much all part and part of what we've seen time and time again. And we're basically in that area of great value, right? We've come down very nicely, since we can see here, 63.64% from February 2024. It's been a great correction to the downside, and we're just finishing it off, in my opinion. Okay, so it's looking good. I'm not terribly too concerned about it. If we take a look at momentum-based indicators, we can see here on the daily time frame, we are oversold on the daily and on the 8 hour. Let's expect some more volatility on the smaller time frames for sure, but I'm not terribly too concerned over what I'm seeing here. If we go ahead and take a look at the relative strength index, we're finally down in the oversold area after kind of running up close to the overbought range back in July. Okay, so we have had a pretty decent correction here to the downside from a momentum point of view, indicating that this is not really where an intense amount of sell pressure is likely to occur. It's like waiting 63% before you sell your bags. It isn't typically what you would expect to see. Now, there's a lot of fear in the market, of course. There's lots of fear, and I do expect us to continue that fear a little bit more. Right? We're not an absolute zero here. We're at 25.12 on this relative strength index, so there's still plenty of room to fall, of course. But we are starting to, in my opinion, see the end of this correction, and it is going to catch a lot of people off guard, in my opinion. Take a look at volume here, and you can see how insignificant the volume profiles are. Yes, we've had a huge dump in the market. There's been a slight increase in volume, but ultimately, since we had those highs in February of 2024, the volumes have been a major decreasing factor, meaning that there isn't a huge amount of sell pressure in the market here, but there is an imbalance between the supply and the demand. Okay, there is a lack of demand for buying up during this entire time period, and that's ultimately led to more of this downward price pressure than anything else. We're not seeing an influx of huge amounts of sell pressure coming in here, dragging the market down. We're just not seeing the demand coming in to soak up any of the sell pressure, so price tumbles down. So for the most part, Vechain's okay. I'm not concerned about it. If we roll this up into a weekly time frame, again, you can see these structures on a much bigger scale, all looking very good. We are, of course, in lower highs, lower lows, and these, as I say many times before, have a tendency to want to have breaks to the upside. We are at the moment moment going to be targeting out some pretty interesting levels. Should we go down to 1.574 cent, then we will be looking for 15.8 as our initial breakout. But of course, time will tell as to whether or not we will rally up from a much higher place than we currently see here on the charts. But nonetheless, as I said before and said again, Vechain's got long-term proposition value to it. So I'm looking at this being a really good bull run for Vechain. It's just a case of being patient, dollar cost averaging into bigger positions when these huge opportunities do present themselves, and really just take advantage of the market as you see it. But guys, you can let me know what your thoughts are on all of this in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where's your long-term price prediction for Vechain? Let me know. If you found today's video useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. And if you haven't done so yet, check out my other channel where I cover a lot more technical analysis just up here. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.